So I'm going to drop all of that shit. And this is a really powerful practice. It's the Stoic philosophy, memento mori. Reflect on your death. I was just speaking to a friend of mine that's going through something like this.
Mm.
Since I started to reflect on death multiple times a day, every time I start to hear a negative thought creep in or whatever, I go, oh man, no. Like this, imagine if this was my last day, or imagine if I had 6 weeks left on this planet and I knew it. I would do nothing but love as many people as possible and give
Mm.
as much as I could and appreciate. I wouldn't want to sleep because I'd want to take it all in.
Hello and welcome back to A Woman Refined podcast. I'm your host, as always, Lauren Renee, and this is season two, people. This is exciting, season two. If you've been here from season one, you'll know that one of our very first guests, I think number two actually, was Jaguar Heart. And last year I put up a poll saying if who would you like to see on the podcast? And as always, Jag is a very popular response. So everybody wanted to see another podcast with Jag. So here we are. Um, I think this is our third podcast together, and we wondered what in the world we were going to talk about, but we got down to council culture and the rise and fall of the masculine and feminine community, and where we think that's going to go, and the split from the mother. So we've got some very interesting topics coming up, and we never go in with an agenda. We just kind of see chat and see what comes up. So that's very exciting. And if you like today, I would really love if you could do all of the things that really help the algorithm for me, please. That would be to like, share, subscribe, 5 star, leave a review. Also, if you have a particular request, please send me an email, which is a womanrefinedpodcast@gmail.com, or DM me a underscore woman underscore refined on Instagram. Otherwise, I'd love for you to enjoy this podcast. Before you go, if you're listening to this in January 2026, you still have time. I have my Woman in Bloom immersion course coming up in February 2026. There will be more courses throughout the year, so don't fret if you're listening to this a little bit later. Just check the website at womeninbloomimmersion.com and you will be able to sign up there to the next course. It is an initiation process for young women, so for teenage girls. It also requires a female representative, a mother, ideally, or auntie, older sister, grandmother, whoever, to walk them through the process with them. So you will be doing the course as well as your teenage daughter. And it is the way that we guide women through the journey from girlhood to womanhood through menarche, which is their first bleed, and onto becoming a woman and what that means to become a woman. We're going to guide women through anatomy, hormones, the female brain, how we communicate, how to protect yourself online as a woman, how to represent yourself online as a woman, and how to understand intimacy and empowerment as you come into that phase of your life. So it's a course that I designed 10 years ago with a bunch of women, and I have some beautiful women helping me present it this month coming up. Martine DeLuna, who we've had as a guest on the podcast, she will be talking on the female brain, and Evelyn Ray, who will be doing our online safety section. She is an ex New South Wales detective. So she definitely knows her stuff. She's definitely worked in that sector before and understands just what women are exposed to. So if you would like to sign up, or you know someone who has a teenage daughter who you think could benefit from this, please send them the website, womeninbloomimmersion.com, immersion with double M. And hopefully we will see you there in February. All right. I'll leave it there and we'll get straight to the podcast. See you next month.
Right, so we can go into it, but
Yeah.
we'll have a look at what I think of it.
Yeah.
I kind of think the woke right is similar, you know, how the left uses things like misogynist and your whatever letters, phobic, racist,
Mm,
white supremacist. I think the woke right is like your, a globalist, unpatriotic,
libtard.
libtard, groomer, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
groomer's pretty accurate for the most part. But
Yeah. Look, that's how they get you because it's all somewhat true.
yeah.
You can make very broad statements because it's kind of true.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. Most of those people, they make really broad statements
Mm.
and apply almost to anyone. That's a tactic. I can't remember what it's called. Um, but yeah, they say it's the Barnum effect, where you include a
Yes.
lot of like
Yes.
aspects that it can apply to everyone, but
Yeah.
not everything will be everyone, but everything will be everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what they use, these really broad stroke criticisms of people to tear them down, which is what we're going to talk about, like tear down culture, because
Yeah.
that's been really big that I've seen recently.
Well, let's get into it. Look, I'll probably include this beginning bit and we'll go from here. But Jaguar Heart, welcome back to the podcast. Third time, people requested you again. They love you. Thank
I'm
you for coming
surprised.
back again.
Is this 3 or 4? I thought this was 4.
This is three, but we've also done three lives, I think.
Okay, cool.
So it's a lot.
Number
We
6.
have a lot to say.
Yeah, we got a lot of problems with these people. Is that what Frank Costanza says about Festivus? Have you seen that? You watch Seinfeld? I got a
Yeah,
lot of problems with you people. We need that. Bring back Festivus, I reckon.
100%. Festivus is great. Oh, it's so funny because whenever I put stuff up, people are like, love hearing you and Jag talk. And
Mm.
I feel like, what else can we possibly talk about? I feel like we've spoken about so much, but you and I reached out to you. I was like, listen, you've been requested again. What are we going to talk about? And we kind of came up with some ideas. We were talking about stuff that was coming up for us at the time, and one of the things that was popping up for both of us was kind of like the implosion of the masculinity and femininity space. And I think like my understanding of that, like this whole cancel culture thing, we've recently had the Aubrey Marcus stuff go down. We've had the
Sadia Khan too.
yeah, Sonia Khan. There was Chris as well, Chris Griffin, that verse Laura Henshaw that got really viral and went super viral. And so we've had like this big kind of implosion. And I guess it all started, I think, when you look at like the red pill side of it all with like Andrew Tate coming in. And there's a lot of like toxicity that seeps in there. And we become the very thing that we're like fighting against, unfortunately.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, so we thought we'd talk about that today. Toxicity of the man space, tear down culture, cancel culture and its impact,
Hmm.
and how the right has now become the woke right. Well, there is part of the right that is the woke right that is just as bad as the woke left.
I think there's heaps to talk about too. You look at like public figures too.
Mm.
There's this dude Chocky, the controversy coach. Have you seen him?
I've seen one thing of his. Yeah.
Yeah. So Lisa Spencer, is it
Yeah.
Lisa Spencer? Yeah,
Yeah.
she's cool. I know Lisa. Like when she lived in Byron, we were friends, and
Mm.
she's cool. I like her approach. She's a little more. She's not so hardcore like Abby or Chocky,
Mm.
but they seem to be two sides of the same coin, Abby and Chocky. And I like what Chocky says, but I think, it's this controversial shock kind of approach, which is political. And I actually got asked to go on SBS. Did you see the masculinity
I
thing?
saw it. I
Yeah.
wondered if you got asked to go on
Yeah, I
that.
did. And I said no because I knew what they were going to do. I knew
Yeah.
that they would edit it and they would make Clayton look like an idiot, which they
Yeah.
did, and give more promotion to Tarang. Is it Tarang?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I feel for Tarang, man. What he went through with his sister, I had no idea that he went through
Yeah.
that.
That's brutal.
And I actually really felt for the guy that he'd been through that. So actually, you know, I respect what he's doing because it's born out of a place of trying to make change, I guess, and to help him, not speaking for him, to understand what he went through. But when I heard that, I was like, oh man, like my perception of him shifted instantly
Yeah.
after I heard that because I thought he was just another lefty that was just fucking banging the drum and hates men.
Yeah.
But after what happened to his sister, that shouldn't happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And I really felt for him. The other part
Same.
of that was the other guy with the blonde hair, where they were talking about standards and body count or something.
Mm,
And he said, "Oh, you know, it's that's just misogynistic to want that." But again, it's all right for women. And Chucky kind of said, you know, it's all right for women to want 200 grand a year and 6 foot 6 figures, all that shit. And it's like, well, when did now hating the other sex somehow fall into the category of having standards?
mm,
You know what I mean? And so there's so much of that stuff we could talk about, and I've moved away deliberately from any sort of commentary, tear down culture, because it's like if you're talking someone up, no one cares. So now you've got to be inflammatory in a lot of ways.
mm,
And it's not really my style to tear someone else down. I've never been like that. I'll
mm,
call someone out if need be, like Andrew Tate or whatever, and say, I think that he's a psyop and he was put there deliberately to be the perfect example of what toxic masculinity is. So I
mm.
think that's what I think about that. But individuals, I'm not going to go on there. Like, who was that fucking, what was his name? He called me a grifter or something like that. He looked like a really,
Oh, Will
that's
someone.
right. Yeah, Will Hitchens. That's it.
Will
He's the,
Hitchens, that's
yeah,
it.
it's funny. Like that guy, man, you know, I've had women message me about him when he makes reels about me and say that he just doesn't want to work and all this sort of shit. And it's like, it's just kind of pathetic. You know what I mean? Like but do something better with your life than spend it tearing down other men. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's
I think
ridiculous.
I think for him, he probably sees it like that he's backing women. It's this what do they call it? The white
Performative
knight
ally.
savior.
Yeah, it's a performative ally. White
Uh,
knight's a bit different because the white knight will actually get women. The performative ally tears down men and adopts female characteristics and takes the plight of women so women will sleep with them. And he did that
mm,
at the end of A Really Made About Me. He goes, you know, we need to give women love, care, understanding, and orgasms, 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 like a fucking creep. Like it's really creepy.
yeah. It's interesting though because there was a wise man who once said to me, you know, wherever there's healing, you will find sick people. And
Yeah.
I thought that was so wonderfully put because you have all these spaces that open up in order for healing to be facilitated, in order
Mm,
for healing to take place. And the people come in who are natural leaders in that area, who have experienced things and understand the process and are happy to guide and lead others. And I would, you know, not to blow our own horns, but I would put you and I in that category. We've been through a lot of stuff in our lives and we've come out
yeah.
the other end. And all we want to do is help other people who are
Mm,
going through that same thing. Cause I remember being like, I don't know anyone that
mm,
thinks like I do online. And this is scary for me. Like, is this normal? Is this what, like, where do I go from here?
yeah.
So just like by how I knew I had a personality that I could speak up. And so I chose to do that. I chose to step into the spotlight and do that. So that's how it starts. But then once you hold that space and you have that opening for healing to come through for a bunch of people, you get a bunch of sick people going, yeah, I'm sick. I'm looking for some healing, but they just are not interested in any of the healing. They're
Yeah.
looking to leech.
Yeah.
And this happens all the time with all different walks of life, whether it's the wellness space or, you know, Christianity, you know, it doesn't matter where it is, wherever there's like healing, you're going to find sickness. And this is, you know, even in our mainstream hospitals, you know, this,
Yeah.
you're going to have that level of people who come in and they want power. They
Yeah.
want fame and they want to leech energy from other people and they want to feel good.
Yeah.
And the way that they have to do that is they have to dismantle those who are within integrity within it. And it might start out as like, I want to call out those who aren't. But once you get a little bit of like the clickbait, a little
Mm,
bit of the dopamine hit, oh, lots of people like that video. Maybe I'll do more of that. People want to see heaps of that. I'll do a little bit more of that. And then you become that person online who's just there to commentate and tear down others, but not give anything constructive, not give any, like, you're not adding value here.
yeah, exactly. And he's kind of a good example. I see a lot of accounts that are similar to that, whether it's men tearing down women or, you know, women tearing down men, or in my opinion, the worst kind, men tearing down men. I actually think I actually I don't think I know. Guys like that are the most dangerous to women.
Mm,
They're the biggest threats to women out there.
yeah.
And these psychopathic tendencies that guys like that have, it's like if that's what is your thing, you're the one that's got to go to sleep at night and realize that's going to be up there for years, I guess, unless you delete it, but there'll be videos out there.
Yeah.
That's the example you're setting if you have children. Are you comfortable with that? If you are, then I'd say that you need to do a major stock take of your value system.
Mm.
If that's all you got, like get out there for that guy. Will work. Go and work. Go do something. He's pretty funny. Some of the shit he does is pretty funny. I've seen a few.
Yeah.
He's actually quite funny. Go be a comedian, man. Go
Yeah.
and entertain people somewhere else. Like, calling me a grifter. I got thousands of results, right? And that's just to try to tear someone down with no evidence for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's you just kind of go, yeah, okay, attack, criticize, dismantle others with no real evidence for it. I've seen the way that he changed my reels, and it was like cutting things out of the reel where I actually call men out and say they need to take on more responsibility and they're Peter Pans and they need to grow up, etc. There were other things in there as well. And he just takes what works and, makes it into his own little story,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
people don't want the nuance because then that's a little bit longer than the 3 minute reel that you're allowed to have before you get any exposure, or your 15-second reel that's going to get on the For You page. People
Yeah.
want that clickbait. They want the shortest amount of attention span because you could do a reel explaining all the different points and be like, hey, this is where I disagree with Jaguar. And actually, this is where he's got some really good points,
Yeah.
but it's probably going to be a little bit longer and it's probably going to be a little bit more boring because it's
Mm.
not as exciting as like this guy's a grifter and I'm
Yeah.
going to call him out,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like guys like that, they have an anonymity and distance as safety.
Yeah.
Because they never in a million years would guys like that do it to guys like me in person. And that's not about me as a person or him. Generally, as humans, we won't. I've said this about
Most people
in fact,
online.
if I'm sure if I bumped into him and sat next to him in a cafe and we didn't know each other, I'd probably get on really well with him. He's probably a decent human in real life. But this social media side, whatever is going on within him is just being expressed through social media. That's part of who you are. That's part of him. That's part of
Mm.
his whatever is going on for him. I don't know him, so I'm not going to claim to know him, but it's part of what is going on in his psyche. If he wants to design and develop and devote time to tearing others down as a crusade, then you can have that, man. It won't last long either. I don't think the teardown culture will continue for very long. It's kind of become outrage culture for about 12 months now. And people get over things. They move on.
Well, like look at Aubrey Marcus so quickly that dissolved. And then he, backed it up with another podcast and reopened the wound
He did
again.
three, I think, didn't he? He
Yeah.
did three podcasts or something. He did one with Gaffney, I think,
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
No, he did one with the dude that was
The Joshua. Yeah. The other
yeah,
guy.
and then he did one with his best friend. It's like,
Yeah.
man, just leave it alone.
I know. The
I
thing,
get sorry, go on.
I was going to say, but that's the thing. It's like people had forgotten. It's almost like he was like, oh, I'm not being talked about anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Put
yeah.
another one out.
Yeah.
Oh, no. People are talking about me. Are you guys still talking about me? No?
Yeah.
Put another one
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Let's do another one. So
Yeah.
it's funny because I get people saying like, aren't you going to refute that? Aren't you going to do something about it? I'm like, no, why? Just leave it. Like that, it's not worth my time.
And the thing is, if they come to your page, they can then see, like, if they look you up, they can then see what you've actually said. They can see the full rules and they can see all the testimonies as well of all the people that you've helped. I've seen so many people had their lives changed by the
Yeah.
work that you do, which, funnily enough, is not actually centered on masculinity. It's about being the best human that you can be,
Yeah.
regardless of if you're a man or a woman, but you
Yeah.
work really well with men and like initiating them into their manhood and opening up the parts of themselves in their full man that they've forgotten or neglected.
Yeah, and it's like Laura.
Yeah.
Laura is a similar one. She used one of my reels. I don't know if she designed it. She probably didn't, to be fair, to give her credit. But it said like, it said something around it's about reducing the choices for a woman.
Mm.
And she goes, "Oh my God, this is intensely misogynistic, blah blah." The very next sentence after that in that reel says, "This isn't about control, it's about taking on the responsibilities that the woman doesn't want to have to handle because women are expected to do everything. So it's just kind of why I don't bother responding to any of that or
Yeah.
reels where they tear me down or whatever. And there's not that many out there.
Mm.
It's case in point to the type of human being that's doing it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to engage in that. It's just not going to happen because I could
Yeah.
easily do that, but I won't. It's like what's Mark Twain, one of my favorite sayings. Never argue with an idiot. They'll bring you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Yeah.
So I'm not calling Laura an idiot, by the way. I actually think she's quite a smart chick, but I just think there's a bit of an emotionally unhinged attitude that's been fed through that side.
Mm.
And it's like, you know, you got to have something better to do with your time than just tear down others for the sake of money.
As a woman, I feel like we get assigned a filter in which we are told to view everything through.
Hmm.
So even if someone might be saying something that they think is nice, like what happened with Chris in particular, where he was like, I just want to take care of my woman and I don't want her to have to work if she doesn't want to work. I think that's lovely.
Yeah.
But we are like, well, let's filter that sentence through the view of patriarchal control.
Yeah.
How did they really mean it?
Mm.
And it's like this psychosis that I think women in particular are quite easily adept at doing, which is the overthinking, the over like explaining, and because we don't really often say what we mean. But men are pretty clear. They just like say what they mean most of the time. If you're a healthy man, there are obviously outliers and exceptions to the rule who just are just as manipulative as women. But in general, we're the ones who are like, well, let's analyze what they said, and did they really mean that, and did they really say this, and maybe then when they said that they really meant this, and maybe we should read between the lines. Whereas Chris was like, no, I just like to take care of my woman,
Yeah.
like the plain and simple, like she can do whatever she wants, but what I really like is a happy wife,
Yeah.
because that would give me a happy life. Like it's a saying for a reason.
Yeah, and it's easier when your woman's thriving. Like my woman's thriving, man. It's just easier. I get put in the role of being useful. She
Mm,
gets put in the role of taking care of the home. It's not for everyone. That's cool. Not every man's meant to be a provider. Not every man's meant to be a protector. If that's not your thing, cool. I don't care. That's fine. Live however you want to live.
mm,
I just think that we need to have more men willing to do that, and then we see how the woman will thrive as a result of that. I always say when I'm looking at relationships, because I deal with a lot of men that are in highly abusive relationships,
mm,
and I look at two things with it. You, when I look to see if someone's in a toxic relationship, I assess their health from when they got into it versus where they are by the end of it. That's the biggest indicator. Someone's
yeah,
health will give it. And if they're in a good relationship, you can tell how well a woman is treated by her health. You
yeah,
know, Joelle came from a relationship, her period was every 90 days or 100 days or something.
mm,
Now it's back into the 30s.
mm,
That's just it's biology because I take care of her and she takes care of me. And
yeah,
it's reciprocity with that. And so I think where a lot of people like Laura and I don't know about Will, but he's obviously left by the way that his political leanings, given how much he hates men. But with that, when we say a man leads, men and women both lead. They just lead in different areas.
mm,
Men lead in direction, women lead in connection.
mm,
Right. So, and you know this, I don't need to explain to you, it's more for people that are listening.
yeah,
If it's got something to do with strength, security, provision, protection, or finances, usually the man leads.
mm.
And if it's intimacy, emotion, or blind spots, it's generally the woman.
Yeah, you and I have actually done a full live on this. If you go to my highlights, for those who are listening, and the lives I've done tab on my old account before it got shadow banned, Jag and I did a whole live on how women set the tone in
Yeah.
relationships. Like women have this whole thing that is online, like men lead and submit to your husband. Is like there's so much nuance to that. Women lead, women provide in just in different ways. These are human
Yeah.
qualities. Like men nurture as well in a different way that women nurture. We're all emotional. We just express different emotions at different quantities at different times. It's these are human things, but the way that our biology expresses them is vastly different. So
Yeah.
yes, we are connected. We are not the same, but we are all human.
Mm.
And that's the nuance that nobody wants to have. The left wants to say we're all the same, no matter what, we express the same. And the
Mm.
right wants to say we're completely different and we don't have the same things at all,
Yeah.
which is just not true. The truth is that it is something a little bit from the left and a little bit from the right. And if we can't hold the tension of opposites and have like a nuanced conversation, what the fuck are we doing?
Well, you become an imbalanced, maladaptive human being if you're all one way and not the other, and
Yeah.
without an allowance, and I think that's really important because one that I saw Laura post something the other day. Someone sent it to me. I'm like, if everyone listening, please stop sending me her stuff. I don't want to see it. It's like, I'm sure she's a nice person, but I don't care about that stuff. Like, leave me out of it.
Mm.
And she said something about how she gets called crazy, right? Like gets DM'd or blown up and whatever. And I'm like looking at it and I go, well, don't call every man misogynistic then. Don't
Yeah.
call every man toxic. If you can't take it, don't dish it out. Like that's what you're going to expect. And she went on about, oh, we've been called crazy for centuries and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, you act crazy. Act
Yeah.
mature and it's not like, oh my God, I'm so fucking triggered and this was the most triggering. That's not someone that should be in a position of influence that gets triggered or terrified because someone says something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this
That's
is
not
just
stable.
immature psycho. It's not stable.
Yeah.
It's really not. And like, I'm just going on what she says. But it's like if you want to call men toxic and misogynistic, then you're going to get called crazy because you're using a reductionist approach to bring people down into one thing. Human beings are complex, they're multidimensional, they change, they have multiple different aspects of their identity.
Mm.
And you're trying to put me in the category of misogynistic and hating. I'm not misogynistic at all. Just look at my woman. She's healthy as. That's not the sign of a misogynist.
Don't worry, I have internalized misogyny apparently, so we're
That's
all in
right.
the same boat.
Yeah, on the same. I've probably got it too on some level in some weird way. But it's these sorts of things where it's becoming this teardown culture is becoming the so myopic that now it's just there's no recourse for any of it,
Yeah.
and it's
I
it's
would have
psychopathic.
I would have a lot of respect for Laura if she was like, "Hey, I heard this thing, I felt really triggered, and I looked at that and I thought, what is that in me that's triggering? Here's where it's coming from, and here's why I disagree with what he said."
Yeah,
That is like a reasonable emotional response. But to be like, it was terrifying to hear that,
yeah,
I'm like, that is, you sound crazy.
yeah,
That is crazy behavior. Like,
yeah,
that's not, that's not normal to be that triggered. That is someone whose nervous system is on the brink. And I know because I've been there. I've
yeah,
been where my nervous system is so shot that I am like so reactive to anything and everything that I have been not sleeping and been terrified by everything. But like that is a very real place. And that is not a person who is like really qualified at that point to step up and like be a leader. Go take care of yourself. If you're really there, like genuinely, like if Laura is really there where she's on the edge all the time and she's terrified of words that people say and then terrified of life and what that means, then you need to go and take care of yourself. Like, please do that. But if you're not really there and you're performing this and pretending to be terrified because it's an evocative word that
yeah,
gives weight to your argument because you can't back up your argument with intellect and fact, then that's what I have an issue with.
yeah. I agree with you. I think that if it's a show, then you're in the like pathological liar. You're a pathological liar. So it's one or the other. And there's no real, she's obviously very smart. She's done
Mm.
really well, and credit to her for that. And I'm sure she's probably quite reasonable behind the scenes. So I also don't want to reduce her down to like one thing as she's done to me or other people. But I mean, I'm not going on there saying you should hate women and I've never said that anywhere. But I'm being treated as though that I have. I've never
Yeah.
said anything like that. It's like the saying, it's like if you can't attack the claim, you attack the character.
Yeah.
And that's what I find continually with me.
The ad
They're like, oh,
hominems.
the ad hominem, like they go up, like, oh, you're not a qualified psychologist. I'm like, I've never said I'm a psychologist anywhere.
Mm.
Never, not once. I've not once ever uttered those words. And
Mm.
I'm very open about it. I studied for just over a year and then I left because it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Mm.
That's it. But calling yourself a therapist, a coach, or a counselor is not a legally protected term in Australia. It can be broad stroke across anything that you want.
Yeah.
Movement therapist, nutritional therapist, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And people, that's all they can try to attack me on, and that's what they do.
Yeah. Well, it's like, Andrew Tate. I did a podcast of 2021, maybe a long time ago, about how he kind of does this thing where he collects, we're talking about the Barnum effect where it can kind of associate with everyone. So
Mm,
what they tend to do, these big influencers, is they tend to say such broad statements that everybody can agree with.
mm,
And once you assign that person as your representative online to speak your thoughts that you may be not wanting to speak or too scared to speak or whatever it is, you're like, this is the person that feels like I do. And I'm going to say, you're my champion. I nominate you as
yeah,
tribute to be my voice online. Once you've assigned that person who said these really broad statements that most people can agree with, or their target audience will agree with, then they start going slower and slower. Like it gets more and more niche, more and more niche. Like Andrew Tate said some really like reasonable things at the beginning,
yeah,
where you're like, okay, yeah, that's pretty. And like people are like, oh, but he was against the vax. I'm like, cool. So were a bunch of other crazy people. Not doesn't mean that they're not crazy,
mm,
you know. So he starts out with these really broad things, and then comes into this really niche things that are really unreasonable. But you're locked in at this point, and you're
mm,
like, but I've already said that this person is the thing that I believe in, and that they represent me online, and that they're the one who are speaking the truth. And now I don't know what to do. I've either got to back out of that, and I don't know how to do that and hold my own, or I have to just go along with this, and that makes me uncomfortable. So they
mm,
buy into it. They have to buy into it because the cognitive dissonance is too strong, and
yeah,
that's what happens. This is like level zero manipulation. Like kids do it, where kids are like, "Yeah, come and play this game," and they're like, "Now we're going to play this."
yeah,
And this
yeah,
is, where I'm the boss, and
yeah,
you're all going to do what I say. Like it's so basic, yet it's so human. And we do it all the time and we see it all the time. And if anyone calls that out, the only thing you can do is attack that person
yeah,
personally, because you
yeah,
can't attack, because then they're going to look at what you're doing and they're going to expose it.
yeah.
So you can't go to battle with facts. You can only go to battle with ad hominem attacks.
Yeah, and we've seen that many times. I mean, I've defended you a number of times on your page over,
Yeah.
women trying to gaslight you over stuff that's just not even true. And they're like, I don't think you understand what you're saying. It's like, you know what you're saying. It's very clear.
Yeah.
It's those sorts of attacks. And when it's based on that, that's really all it is now. It's just,
Yeah.
okay, give me 15 seconds of value. And that's where we're coming from these days. And it's very psychopathic
Yeah.
in its approach. It's very parasitic. If you want to devour and consume and tear down another, that's why that Will dude, he hates men because he doesn't want to be a provider. A woman messaged me saying, "Yeah, I went on a few dates with him. He told me he just doesn't want to work." That's it. And I think we discussed this offline, and
Mm.
he just doesn't want to work, but he'll tear down everyone else to make money off tearing other people down. It's like you want to talk about a grifter. That dude's a grifter.
Literal definition of grifting.
Literal literal definition of it, right? Absolute definition of it. So
Yeah.
they have no they operate in this world of dehumanization. They
Mm.
dehumanize someone because they're on a screen, which is, others are pawns or just objects. And that's the way that these people treat them. They don't think, what's that person going through?
Mm.
I said, people kept sending me stuff about the Laura stuff, and I was just like, I'm not going to make posts about it. I'm not going to direct anything towards her. I don't mind having a conversation about it in this.
Mm.
But I found out she was pregnant. I'm not going to go after a pregnant woman. What
Yeah.
sort of man would I demonstrate if I am going after someone online to tear them down that is pregnant? That's the
Mm.
antithesis to what I stand for.
Yeah.
So I think we've gone into this society that is so fragile and so, I don't even know if there's a word beyond fragile, is there? It's just very childlike, rampant fragility that is around at the moment.
Yeah. It is very much like, everyone gets a participation award. Well, you don't want to upset anybody.
Yeah,
Everyone's so scared of their own feelings. Like
yeah,
it's classic avoidant,
yeah.
and then no,
While
it's fine.
they're scared of it while they're using feelings as the guidepost for absolutely everything. And all I'm seeing is like just more mental illness,
Yeah.
more signs of mentally really sick people. I
Mm.
really, and I feel for them. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
you
I
know, and
totally agree.
now a good example is Sadie Khan. You know, she's going off online.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Like I brought it to your attention a few, maybe a year, a bit ago. I was like, have you seen what is going on? Because Taylor Burrows, who's like this wonderful ex-psychologist, had exposed her because she had made a video disagreeing. And Taylor does that where she does very well at, I disagree with what this person says. Here's where I agree with what they say, and here's where I disagree. And she doesn't try and tear them down. She just does it in such a great way where she's like, this is what my opinion is as an ex-psychologist, ex-family and relationship coach. And Sadia came after her. And she was like, hey, like, you say you're a psychologist. Can you, because the way that she spoke to Taylor was such a red flag. She was like, anyone who's a registered psychologist would never speak to anybody like this.
Mm,
This is insane. And she said, hey, can I see your qualification? Can I see your license? And Sadia sent these like chopped up diplomas that were like not of psychology. She has a diploma of education,
yeah.
like not a bachelor of education, not even like, and she's a teacher of psychology. And she had then went and bought some online course where you could buy a certificate in like counseling or something, but it's not a legitimate qualification towards being qualified to treat clients in a
Mm,
clinical setting. And this is what Taylor was saying. She's like, that's all great. If you want to call yourself a coach, Sadia, like you have advice, you have opinions, and people want them, great. Like be a coach, but don't tell anyone that you're a psychologist. And that's what you've
mm,
been doing.
yeah.
And she went off her nut and has been going off her nut at her. And then she got exposed for editing her videos to have a slimmer waist by this guy who's a fitness influencer. And
Yeah.
he does that often, calling out the people who are being fake online. And she went crazy at him, blocked him, and then his followers started commenting on her stuff. And she lost it in like a serious, I was like, this woman is like, that's a serious mental health episode. She's tried calling all these random people, tried pick up, you want to say that about me online? Oh, God, you come and say it to my face. Tried calling these random people that she doesn't know on Instagram in their DMs. She's also now been exposed for being another man's side
Side
chick.
piece. Yeah. That was the craziest thing about it, man, is that
Talking
she's,
about a high value woman and you're a
yeah.
side chick.
Yeah. And like going, I saw one of the messages, she's like, I'm such a sick side chick or something. And the dude was like, you never stop talking about hoes, murder, rape, and marriage or something like that. Heal,
Mm-hmm.
man. He said heal, man. I was like, wow, you're still sleeping with her.
Yeah. And she was like talking about how good she performs certain acts and that she could do that to this woman's man anytime she wanted and she would do it on their wedding day. I'm like, this is the person that people go to for advice.
Yeah,
This is the person that people like Chris Willis and Jay Shetty and all these people who are supposed to be reputable people, they had her on their podcast and promoted her as someone of worth and value for
mm,
other people to listen to. And if people like me or Taylor or anyone said, hey, like this woman's not right, she's not stable, she's not legit, she's actually legally fraudulent,
yeah,
then we were jealous or we were crazy, but she's nuts. She's actually the crazy one, and she fooled everybody. She's fooled the highest of the highest. Like if she'd
yeah,
been on Joe Rogan, that would have been her last next step.
yeah. Yeah, she
But
seems like somewhere between narcissistic and borderline.
yeah, absolutely.
Like she's
Absolutely.
unhinged, man. She's super unhinged.
No one would ever, if you're a professional, you would never speak to somebody like that, regardless of your profession.
No.
You just would never speak to people like that, especially on the internet. How dumb can you be?
Oh man, it's crazy. Like I see it and I just go, wow, calling someone 40 times or something like that from your account, for what purpose? What are you going to do with that?
It's just, it concerns me. It concerns me that people platformed her. And like I said, she had great broad statements where she was like,
Yeah.
these are the issues that I see going on with men and women. Like she said some okay stuff. It
Mm,
wasn't like everything that I agree with, but she had some stuff that I was like, yeah, fair. But also not hard to make those conclusions, not needing a
yeah.
lot of qualifications to put those two pieces together and say it online. You
Yeah.
look pretty, you present well, and you speak well when you're on the camera. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, she had some good insights. There was some pretty powerful stuff that she said. That's why she became big. I mean, she wouldn't have become big if she didn't have some genuine insights which were really valuable.
Mm,
So we don't want to reduce it down to just one thing either at the same time, because obviously, I mean, she obviously helps people on some level. Otherwise, she wouldn't be around. That's the hard part. But this behavior is, I mean, it's crazy. It's kind of like the Aubrey Marcus stuff where, the God bomb that he does. I did a thing with Brandon and David.
yeah, that was great. I watched that. It was beautiful.
Yeah, because we're all traditional. We all believe in traditional roles,
Mm,
traditional masculinity. That's part of the difficulty with what we see is guys like the three of us get hammered
mm,
by leftists and people like Laura and other people that think that we're going back to the 1950s, and it's not. Like we don't. I mean, okay. So I'm going in a few different directions here. They say, oh, going back to the 50s is regressive, but they're progressive.
mm,
I mean, you look at the state of the world and people that have similar ideologies to them,
mm.
they are like, they're very unhealthy. I was
Yeah,
going to say something else then, but I won't go there. Like, they're very unhealthy. I don't think we've progressed anywhere. I think we've actually highly regressed.
yeah.
I think we need to, the people that I know that are in healthy relationships generally form the biological traditional role of man as protector provider, woman as nurturer nourisher. And it just seems to
Mm,
work.
yeah. Or they do the complete opposite. They're completely inverted, and that also works because it's still polarized.
Laura and her husband.
Yeah.
That's a complete inversion and it works. If that works for them, great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
How about
think
it?
biologically long term, and this is just my opinion, I think that it will make them unwell physically long term because it's going against the natural biology and the hormone production. But in terms of relational stuff, as long as you're polarized, it's going to work. And this is
That
the
work.
same, I have many same-sex couple friends and they're like, but you talk about like femininity and masculinity and polarity and all this stuff. I'm like, it still applies.
Yeah.
It's still the same,
Yeah.
but you're just going to be more fluid in working in towards like who's going to be more masculine and who's going to be more like feminine at that point in the terms of your roles, because you're both like either feminine or either masculine at all times, but someone's going to need to take on those roles. You're going to need to still create polarization, otherwise there's no chemistry there, there's no magnetism, and you will get what in the lesbian world they call lesbian bed death, LBD. Like there's nothing. It's
Hmm.
There's no spark. It's gone.
Yeah. And then there's like the other thing, which is the mother-son construct, which women date men that are seeking to make them his mother,
Yeah.
which is pretty unhealthy. That's not a polarity issue. I don't believe that's a psychological issue, but
That is the most common.
it is the most common nowadays. It is because men
100%.
haven't really gone into that. They haven't moved into their man psychology or their maleness, as Brandon Bozarth calls it, which I like.
Mm,
He talks about an alpha male just being a man that is in his full maleness without
yeah.
distortions and conflicts internally
Yeah.
related to his boy psychology. And
Yeah.
I think that's pretty accurate. It's not the Andrew Tate. I think Andrew Tate's a terrible role model. I think he's done
Mm,
more damage to masculinity than good. And in the start, he was good because he just took on stoic tenets.
yeah.
Stoic philosophy. So I think there's like the inversion thing. I think you're right. I think over time you will depolarize and you'll move back to it because I think that generally what I see is men and women that are of the opposite to what their biology represents. It's trauma that's
Yeah.
driving that. That's what I
Yeah.
see. Doesn't mean that's 100% universal that way. I'm always open to nuance to it. But generally, just what I've seen, if you get a hyper masculine woman and a very feminine man, trauma is usually the foundational architecture for that expression.
Yeah. And look, like all of us have trauma. Okay. Like this is the thing that people like, you just call people who are not like you traumatized. I've heard that before. And I'm like, well, the thing is, I look at my trauma. We've all got it. It's how you choose to engage with it. And
Yeah.
do I want to continually work on making myself the best version of myself? Yes, I do. Or do I want to just, and this is an argument that I've had with someone where it's like, they're like, can't you just accept people for how they are? I'm like, I can accept them for how they are. But the thing is, I'm not going to pretend that if someone is unhealthy, that they are unhealthy. I'm going to say, you're unhealthy, and that's cool if you want to stay that way. But I'm not going to be like if someone has an eating disorder and they think they're fat and they're really anorexic, I'm not going to be like, yeah, you're totally fat. Don't
Yeah.
eat. That's a great idea. I'm totally going to be encouraging of this delusion. Like,
Yeah.
that's just not in my constitution. That's never how I be, because that's not my value system. I value truth and I value integrity. I value authenticity. So I'm going to sit with that. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be like, turn that lens on yourself and be like, I've got stuff that I've got to work on.
Mm.
And I need to still, like, I'm not perfect, but I'm
Yeah.
here and I'm showing up and I'm doing my best. And I'm trying every day to like make myself a better person. At least I'm like making those choices. I'm not just going, oh, well, that's just how I am. So everyone else has to deal with it. And it's, if it hurts other people, oh, well, that's not my fault because it's just how I am.
It's just my trauma. Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with
Oh,
you on that.
well, I'm just
Yeah,
traumatized. Sorry, guys.
yeah, I fully agree with you on that. And I think that's just, we've even got a term now, which is adulting. I'm adulting. And I think that I get so tired of all those sorts of terms and the child psychology that's rampant in our society and people that don't want to take responsibility are childlike.
Yeah. Well, this is the, like we're just saying, I see the most common thing being men going into a very passive relationship like role where they have engaged their wife as the mother. I see the women being miserable in this role. They're like, I've got another kid to take care of. I see the
Yeah.
men being miserable in this role, being like, I feel like I can't do anything right and my woman isn't attracted to me anymore and I just get bossed around. But also, no one's working on that.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, oh, well, I guess we'll get divorced then and then get into another relationship where we play out the same fucking thing again.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah. Because men are meant to leave their mother. That's why they have a mother wound. They're meant to overcome that complex.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. I actually think it kind of forms the foundation of my work is men splitting from parts of their identity in the form of programming. It's not actually about this masculinity or masculine principle, so to speak. That certainly forms parts of it.
Mm.
For me, it's about dissolving programming and overcoming programming and actually moving into, I wouldn't say wholeness because I need to remove things that are in the way of whatever is there that's sabotaging your expansion and your growth into becoming more mature. That's for sure. I did it myself. I got asked the other day about, again, qualifications, and I'm like, there's no university degree that teaches this. I've been in contact with Brandon Epstein. He was just on Joe Rogan. He's a performance coach, and we do exactly the same work.
Mm.
And he says the same thing, there's no degree out there that teaches this. There isn't. You
Yeah.
can kind of maybe go hypnotherapy if you want, but it's still not what I do.
You have
And
a great collection of things. I think you're very well read and it's so broad, but a lot of it comes from experience, correct?
all of it comes from experience,
Yeah.
pretty much. Everything I help people with, I've walked through myself.
Yeah.
Now, I had two great therapists that helped me, which was an EMDR therapist and I don't even know what his real title was. He was in New York. He wasn't a psychiatrist. I think he was a psychologist. I don't know the terms like they are here. He
Probably
was
a psychotherapist.
Yeah, he was great. He was very expensive.
Mm.
He was one of the best around, but he was unreal. And he just helped me to see that I was in cognitive dissonance. And then EMDR therapist helped me actually dissolve the PTSD from my previous relationship.
Yeah.
Apart from that, is everything I've gone through, everything I help people with is what I've gone through, which
Yeah.
was the mother stuff, mother wounding, narcissistic abuse, things like that. The best guy out there on narcissistic abuse is Richard Grannon.
Yeah. He's
He's
fantastic.
he's awesome. He's not, as far as I know, a psychologist. It's
No.
through his own research that he's become really good, and now
He went through a narcissistic relationship. I think three, actually.
and his dad
Yeah.
was like a narcissistic psychopath, I think. So they're the training grounds, it's I've had other, clinical psychs kind of have a go at me in the comments about stuff and then about masculinity. And then one of them actually did around, I can't even remember, I think it was the Chris Griffin stuff. And she said masculinity is harmful and then used sources from the World Health Organization and the American Psychological Association, which I speak out against in the actual podcast because they're the ones that have tried to pathologize masculinity. And now masculinity is something that you've got to go to a university to get a degree with, to
Yeah.
understand it, to comment on it. It's men have turned boys into men since we could communicate.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And I just do that through my own experience and it works. No degree is going to teach him that because I'll turn him into, you know, feminized, soft, woke, left-leaning male. And if that's the way you want to go, go for it, man. It's just not, you're not going to sit at my table. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, it's not productive to it's not conducive to reality. And this is the thing, like we can have these great ideas, and I've said this before, but we have these great ideas about what we think men and women should be and what we want to allow humans to explore and move into and expand upon, like whether it's poly or trans or whatever it is. It's like that's great that you want to have all of these ideas. But evolutionarily wise, this is not the reality.
Yeah.
And we have to live in reality because we cannot live in fantasy land. That's what we've been doing. And look at the state of our world. We need to live in reality and what works and what doesn't work and go back to, hey, I'm a non-vaxxer, but I believe in science and science will tell you about biology. It'll tell you what hormones expressing at what time and how that affects your body. We don't know everything yet, but we do know a lot. And I can tell you that only women can get pregnant, and that's okay. Like you can have an idea about who you are, but that doesn't mean that that fact changes, that reality changes. People are just so scared of reality. They really want to live in this fantasy. And I'm like, have an idea. No one's saying don't have the ideas. But
Yeah.
if you can't integrate that into reality somehow, it's not working. It doesn't work. Like it's
And
not valuable.
Richard Grannon speaks to this about what narcissists do. Narcissists pull you into a shared fantasy.
Yeah.
That's one of the main key things. Actually, that I got that from him, and that actually helped me break from my ex and
Mm,
with the cognitive dissonance because I saw that that's what she'd been doing, and I got pulled into it. Now we're living in this world of a million genders and all these other different things. That's
mm,
all fantasy. That's
mm,
narcissistic fantasy.
mm,
I'm the center of myself, so I'm uh, a cult of one.
mm.
Right? So it's all me, 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 me. We're self-obsessed. In tribes, I was reading a psychologist the other day, performance psychologist, I can't remember his name now. And he was talking about how in tribes, people would sacrifice the self-need for the need of the tribe to survive.
Yeah.
And then now in society, in culture, what we've got is the survival of the I
Yeah.
over everything else. And so that has allowed society to get to a point where we're living, well, not we, but other people are living in a fantasy and want to pull us into their shared fantasy. That
Yeah.
is what a narcissist does. Someone with narcissistic personality disorder pulls you into a fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak to your story. I know what you've been through, but
Yeah.
I
I went through the same
openly did.
thing.
Yeah, you get pulled
This,
into a fantasy.
yeah, 100%. And it's discombobulating because you want to believe that this is a possibility. And those people are so convincing that this is absolutely possible and it is their reality. And I often say this about narcissistic personality disorder. And not just to be clear, when Jack and I talk about narcissists, and I'm going to speak for Jackie, we're not talking about like my ex is a narcissist. We're
Yeah.
talking about people with NPD, clinically diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. They got to meet the 9 traits. But those people would absolutely pass a lie detector test.
Yeah.
They believe with their whole heart the bullshit.
Mm.
That's why they're so convincing. They don't know that they're telling lies because they're so deep in their own fantasy psychology where they are a hero or a victim and or both. And they are so deep in it that they cannot see that it is a fantasy. That's why they're able to pull you in. That's why it's so like enticing. It's so seducing
Yeah.
because it is their reality in so many ways.
Yeah. I mean, their reality is a fantasy. It's like they're in a, what is it, object constancy, I think, where you struggle to maintain object relations. Like that's their whole internal world. They just can't, there's no solid sense of self. They're sort of
Yeah.
like, they're like a shadow
Yeah.
almost. But I was doing a podcast with a guy, Pete Isaiah, the other day, who's an awesome dude. He's an older guy. You'd be good to speak to him, actually. I'll link you guys up.
Okay.
Super smart dude in his 60s, really solid, does a lot of shadow work and all of that. And I was on his podcast and I said, look, nature doesn't produce anything it doesn't need.
Mm.
So there's a function for the narcissist, which is to break us out of the fantasy by destroying it. But the problem is that if you don't break out of it, it'll destroy you. So
Yeah.
it's either or. You don't, you know this, I know this, coming from I had a mother that's full-blown NPD, then one ex that was full-blown NPD. Someone that says multiple exes are narcissists, no, they're not. You do it once, you never do it again. Ever.
100%.
Ever.
100%.
Right. So when someone says this person narcissist, that chick in America, not in America, in Italy that I met, who fucking sexually assaulted me, by the way, which I never spoke about publicly. Like I could have had her arrested for attempted rape, but the Italians probably would have just laughed and been like, "Hey," like that, and let it go. But yeah, she had said, she has multiple exes that are narcissists and whatever. She was, she was the
It's
narcissist.
always a red flag if someone has multiple exes
Yeah,
who are narcissists.
you do one, you'll do it pretty well. And once you get out of that, you'll either be broken or you'll put yourself back together. That's in
Mm.
everyone I know that's been through a genuine NPD relationship. You don't get two, three shots at that. It just doesn't work.
You don't survive. I don't
No.
think, like there is a pathway out of that. And usually what happens is celibacy comes pretty strong
Yeah.
on the other side of it. And those
Yep.
people are not looking to jump back into another relationship with another narcissist.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen that way. They're usually like so freaking traumatized and they're pretty celibate and pretty self-protected after that because it is serious trauma going through a relationship with a narcissist. It is like nothing that you could even possibly describe to someone who has not experienced it.
Yeah. I mean, I was 2 years celibate
Yeah.
after my previous relationship, or maybe just a little bit under, and I was like genuinely, I thought that funny how the ego works because I hadn't fully healed it yet when I got out. I thought, it's just my masculinity being celibate and blah, blah, blah. I was terrified of intimacy.
Yeah.
Like it was like there was a wall up and I was like, no way. Like I was really scared because of the trauma.
Mm.
And they drag you to hell and back. And once you come off that ride, you don't go do that again. It's like people that
Yeah.
have psychedelic journeys that go into the hellscape
Yeah.
where no logical reason will help you to overcome the horror that you see.
Mm.
For some reason, some people go back and do it again after that. I don't know why you would, but it's kind of like that. It's like a horror movie, like a clown show horror movie. It's terrifying. And to do that again, no, you don't go do that.
And for a lot of people, once they've been and I'm speaking for myself as well, once you've been in that relationship, a lot of the trauma comes after the relationship ends and everything starts unraveling. And you're able to kind of look back and go, oh, and there was that. Oh my God. And then that was the thing. Oh, and that's what that was. And you're starting to put pieces together after you've
Yeah.
come out of like being in their orbit. It's years of healing, and
Yeah.
it's no joke. It's not like do a couple of like little online therapy courses and some
No,
somatic breath work and you'll be right. it's
no.
it's serious. Like it's not a yeah, not everyone's ex is a narcissist. Everyone has narcissistic traits where
Yeah.
we can play out those aspects of ourselves. Everybody has that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can lean into that, but to be an actual NPD is a very different thing and it is a very scary scary time. But I'm like you, I'm grateful for it because I absolutely wanted the fantasy and I really was like, yep, you've sold me it. I'm in hook, line, and sinker,
Yeah.
and it was so good for me because that was a real issue that I had. Absolutely living in a fantasy world a lot of the time, just really head in the clouds kind of person. I was often described like super optimistic all the time, like, yeah, no, it's all going to work out because I was very much like living in a fantasy land. And it took that to really break me down to like, this is why I'm so based in reality now because it's the only place that I can come back to every single time and it is there and it's safe because
Yeah.
it's real.
Yeah. And it's such a good point that you made. It takes years to overcome it. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't just 2 years before I decided to be with a woman again. It was like 2 years of immensely deep, hard
Yeah.
work. I think I did 30 EMDR sessions. Most people do six.
Yeah.
And I wasn't just doing that. I was using my own work. I was doing like, I was seeing 8 different types of therapists a week, from movement, fascia, breath work, everything, to get through it. And then I got through it. And on the other side of it, the gift of it was that, like, there's people can't gaslight me now. You gaslight me
Yeah.
before. Now, mate, there's no, like, it's like cast iron
Mm.
defenses around me. And that's not letting people in. If anything, I'm more open and more willing to let people in now. But the minute that a gaslight or a deflection or a devaluation takes hold, I'm like, no, I shut that like an iron trap.
You're more solid in yourself, I think, when you come out of that, because you go through a whole period where you're like, I can't trust myself because
Yeah.
I let myself get into this and I didn't pick it up and I'm unsafe now. So
Yeah.
you have to rebuild safety and trust with yourself. And part of that process gets you to this place now where you're like, I'm solid because
Mm.
I've been there, I've been through hell and back, and I'm solid with myself now, and I'm not going to leave me. And
Yeah.
I've got my own back, and you don't stand a chance against me now because I will never let that happen to me again.
And once you're through it, that was like the woman that I met in Italy. Her sort of shit started to show up. We only hung out for a week, and
Mm,
it started to show up on day one, pretty much.
mm,
And after a few days, I just was like, nah. And we were in Capri, I think it was. So look, we're gonna go back to Florence, and then you're gone. I'm out. We're not doing this. But she tried to get around my defenses. She tried to seduce me. She tried to lure me in, all of this other stuff. And I just was like, nah, man. But the most important thing is that it wasn't interesting to me.
mm.
This is what I found was really interesting, paradoxically,
Yeah,
was that it wasn't interesting, because
yeah,
that kind of alluring, succubus, seductive,
yeah,
crazy type of woman, give me three. You
yeah,
know, after this one, I was just going, this is not even appealing to me. This is actually quite tiring.
yeah,
It's quite boring, and it's not something that I was interested in after that. There was no stimulus going
yeah.
on. That's where I kind of thank her for that, because she was this final thing that came in, and I went, oh wow, this actually isn't fun for me anymore.
Mm.
This isn't alluring. I don't like it. Wow, I've transcended it. So she was kind of that final reflection to come in and see.
There's often that like last little thing that comes in where it's like God's like, "Are you really sure?
The final boss.
Are you sure you want to like, yeah, are you done?" And you're
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, I'm done.
yeah,
Thank you for that."
yeah. And it wasn't difficult. It's not usually that hard. You just go, I've walked this road before. It's a well-trodden path,
Yep.
and I'm not about that. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So that's important. And I think, hey, where do you think the feminine and masculinity space is going?
Where do I think it's going? I think it's going to implode.
Yeah.
I really do think it's going to implode. And I think there will be a few solid people who ride it out and they will continue the flame in a really healthy way after it implodes.
Hmm.
But I think it's going to get real messy real quickly. I think particularly, and I base some of this off a podcast I was listening to with Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan the other day, where Jordan Peterson was talking about the fact that the left was in control and in power and in influence previously.
Yeah.
Now the right is. So wherever the narcissists are drawn towards is power. So they were on that side. They were like, yeah, I'm going to be a woman too. I'm going to have blue hair. I'm offended. I'm fluid. I'm
Mhm.
whatever. They were like, whatever. Is that Duke going off?
Yeah, no, I just clicked my fingers because he ran to the door to see me.
um, So, oh no, it's my dogs outside. I can hear going off. I can hear
No,
dog
well, Duke,
barking.
Duke just sprinted down the steps to come and see me. So
Oh, he must have heard the dogs.
yeah, you're on point there.
So clever. Um, yeah, so now that the right's in power, you've got Trump in power, you've got right influence, the backlash to the left is happening, the conservative movement, you've got Ballerina Farm, you've got all of this stuff that the trad wives, the red pill movement, all of this, hyper masculinity, hyper femininity space that is coming up. The narcs are like, okay, cool, power's over here now. I'm gonna go and be this like giga chad
Yeah,
or this like uber trad biblical wife,
yeah,
whether they're a man or a woman, and they're going to play that role and they're going to poison it, and it always implodes from the
yeah,
inside out because the inside will bring it down. We will trust the wrong people. It happens every time. This is a
yeah,
tale as old as time,
yeah,
and that this was a space that was really edgy and really risky about 3 or 4 years ago. You know, coming out of, I was like speaking about the vax stuff and coming into like, okay, I'm going to start speaking about this stuff too, because I see that it's really needed to be spoken about. I could already see the polarization of like trad wife feminist and, well, a triad, trad white feminist, and then like new age goddess tantra
Mm,
queen, divine queen, put in all the adjectives you can. Um, and I was like, there's no nuance here. And I'm feeling like I want to step into that and open up a space where like normal women can be like, hey, I don't fit into any of these. What do I do? And already within just a few years, that's just totally like twisted now. It's
yeah,
twisted.
yeah,
And you can see it. And all the toxic people that have come in, and they really dig into those stronghold points, those extreme points, and they will really blow it up and make it a battle. And I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. I don't want to be involved.
yeah. I agree with you on that. I think that that's such a accurate pre prediction and depiction of where it's at and where it's gone. That's why I've stepped away from focusing on masculinity. I'm not going to focus on that anymore. I got
Mm,
into it 5, 6 years ago, I think, when it was actually celebrated, where you
yeah,
could go, oh, this is refreshing. There are men talking
it
about healthy
was.
masculinity, and it was really, it was celebrated. And I think that it became too much about polarity over
Mm,
time. It was just, I was always staying on this road of like just become a better man, be a protector, be a provider. I still stand by that.
yeah.
And I think that the feminine went hyper feminine into goddess fantasy delusion.
Yeah.
And
That's
men, the
exactly it.
masculinity one went into, red pill, MGTOW. I think sort of feminism and MGTOW are more opposing rather than red pill. I
Mm,
think red pill, there's some good stuff in red pill. Like there's some behavioral stuff that's true. But I think, what's the saying? It says like, something starts out as a movement, then it turns into a business, then it turns into a racket, whatever
yeah.
that quote is. And that's what I see red pill as now. It's just a racket.
Yeah.
I think it's, and I get lumped into that, or the Mano swamp, or not the
Yeah.
manosphere, Mano swamp. I don't agree with that space anymore. I think they're all just they're like a bunch of women too. Like they tear each other down.
Yeah.
Not to sort of rip on women there, but you see feminists were really proponents. Not only they hate men, they hate women,
Well,
the hardcore ones.
it's so funny because we're also seeing, people that we thought were within integrity within the community are also being exposed, are also coming undone. People that were
Yeah.
pedestaled early are also like being exposed. There's a lot of that happening at the moment. And astrologically speaking, that's what will continue to happen this year, is it's all coming to light. Everything like the Epstein files and the JFK file, all the stuff, everything in every aspect of lives. You're seeing a lot of divorces right now, a lot of this stuff. Everybody's stuff is coming up to
Mm.
be exposed and like brought to light. So I see this happening, and I think I've spoken to you about it before. And I think on our first podcast, I was like, people are gonna have that with you and me as well, where they're gonna want to try and be like, what can we expose of you guys? But Jag has told everything about every single detail of his life online. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can get at him about, I tell you
Yeah.
that.
Exactly. I think
Like,
that's important to own it too. That's where I've been
yep,
like, I was a womanizer. I've treated women badly. I've
yep,
spent time in prison. I've ripped people off. I fucking admit it. Like I don't care. Like that's an
yep,
old person. If you want to define me by that, something that happened 20 years ago, I don't care. Fill your boots. It's all good. I've had street fights, bashed people, fucking stolen cars, whatever.
yep,
I don't care. Like, fill your boots with it. It's
yep,
how I wake up today, how I treat the people around me, how many people I help, how many
yeah,
men I walk through what I've been through. It's fine. I don't, it's like literally things that I did 20 years ago. Good, a really good mate of mine, Luke Kennedy, similar kind of thing.
mm,
He'd been stabbed multiple times. He's head of a street fighting gang, almost in prison. He wrote it in a book. He's now a
mm.
motivational speaker for kids in high school, believe it or not, right?
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
it kind of goes this beautiful arc goes, okay, he was bashing people and doing all this stuff and, hectic dude. Now he's telling kids not to do that.
Mm,
I do the same thing. I implore men to try to find men that have worked through their stuff, that have
mm,
walked through, the thing that they're going through. I became who I needed when I was 20, so I didn't fuck up so much. You
Yeah.
know, but I was just a product of my environment. I was raised by two super abusive parents. What do you think's going to happen? You smack a dog every single day, it's going to bite you at some point.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
So, but it's
It,
taking responsibility, which is the most important part. I just take full responsibility for it.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's key because, no kid is I mean, look, I say no kid is going to listen to someone who hasn't been through it, but they're doing that. They're doing that online because if you went into a school and you sat down with a bunch of teenage boys and you were like a goody two shoes dude and you're like, don't do this, don't do that, those boys are going to be like, "Oh, yeah,
Mm,
I'll
yeah,
fucking do whatever I want to do."
yeah,
What is this nerd coming in here who's not lived a life, doesn't understand what it's like to be full of raging testosterone and like want to hurt people and is
mm,
hurt himself? Like, what is he coming here telling? Don't do that. But like an ex crim comes in and be like, hey, your choices matter. And look at my life and take it as an example. And I can tell you, I know what you've been through. I've been where you are. And
yeah,
this is where you can end up if these are the choices you make. That makes an impact. But when you're online, you don't have that level of understanding who that person is. So these teenage boys, and this is what I worry about, like a lot of the teenage boys that feel completely displaced, that feel like they have no space. This is like this whole conversation about young boys moving to the right because they have no home. They're not welcome in the left. They're not welcome in society. They're being told they're bad and wrong for just who they are and how they feel and what they want in life. And
mm,
so they're being pushed to these extremes. They're being pushed to the far right. And then you've got all of these grifters online who haven't actually experienced anything, being like, yes, come to me, my pretties. Like,
yeah,
I will take all your money. I will take
mm,
all of your, like the Andrew Tates of the world who literally hired hot girls and then sat there and typed to these poor young men who felt disenfranchised by life and were like, if you give me heaps of money, then I can make all of your problems go away. And they just rip them off. They beat them down even further and then they feed them with the propaganda frenzy. They confirm their biases. Yeah, women hate you. Women just want a monkey branch. Women are useless. They're only good as baby making machines. They shouldn't vote. They shouldn't have opinions. You don't want to marry one. You just want to have as many as you can and just make money and get Bugattis. And, they just feed into that feeling and it rots them from the inside, but you can only do that online. If you met
correct.
Andrew Tate in real life, I've seen how that dude walks. If you haven't seen that man walk, if that guy walked into a room, everyone would clock it in a second. You'd
What
be
do you
like, oh,
mean?
okay. He
Explain.
walks like this.
Does he?
Go, I'll send you some videos. So he walks like a gay man. He
Really?
walks 100%.
He probably is. That would
But
like
a
at
lot
that
of time
style.
it's overcompensation, right? This
Yeah.
is like the thing. Like, I'm not saying he is like fully gay or whatever, but he's got some insecurity in him where he's like, I'm not masculine enough. I'm gonna have to put on this persona to make myself like hyper masculine to
Yeah.
defend against this feeling that I have within me. Because I can't be this man and be comfortable.
Mm.
I'm not accepted as that. I'm not worthy as that.
And it would make sense from an inversion aspect. We're getting conspiratorial here, but I'm all about it. So if you look at it from an inversion aspect, apparently that Bonnie Blue thing
Oh God.
is a transvestite or transsexual, whatever.
I don't reckon she is.
I haven't examined her enough and I don't want
Well, you
to.
couldn't be the highest seller on OnlyFans. It's pretty like as much as like God bless the trans people for saying you can't tell the difference. I've seen them. You absolutely can. And if you've got an OnlyFans account and that's what's making you your money, people would be able to tell.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, that was one of the things that were going around, but from a point of inversion, I wouldn't be surprised with Andrew Tate, if that's the case. I don't think he has a very good attitude towards women. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing him start taking on the narrative to stay relevant about get married. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see that, not from multiple wives or anything like that, but stuff around like, get a wife as young as possible, etc.
Yeah, well, he's Muslim now. So technically, I think they can have four wives,
Yeah, I mean, I'm
according to the
talking about
Quran.
being married just to one person in a monogamous relationship. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if we start seeing that. I guess that's part of the landscape. Instagram was nice 5 years ago, man. It was cool. Like we'd share our holiday photos and, all of this stuff, and it was inspirational. And
Yeah.
now you've got this parasitic, psychopathic teardown culture that plays out a lot, which is I don't know where it's going to go with it, but I'm pretty tired of it. I'm not
Outrage and multi-level marketing scams.
pretty much. That's it. That's all it is. And so I'm not here for it. So making sort of funny statements about Tate and all that, it's like, yeah, whatever, but I don't lose sleep over that. But I think the arc that it's gone on from this, it was a really positive community for a long time. I'd
Mm,
barely ever get any comments, negative comments or anything like that. And then over time, it started to devolve as it started to challenge feminism. And then the feminism stuff started to come out over the last 5 years about how bad
mm,
it is for women.
mm.
And now it's just all men versus women.
Yeah.
And it's shit. It is, it's shit. And I think, I see it. I get guys commenting on my stuff that it's just, this is the state of where males have gotten to. Women, I kind of understand it and I expect it, whatever. But men coming onto your page, it's like, dude, where do you get to where you need my attention so much? You need to come on and try to go, oh, blah, 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 whatever. You couldn't lead a woman. I had like some 50-year-old boxing trainer from Melbourne try to say you couldn't lead a woman fucking out of a wet paper bag, let alone a woman of substance. I'm like, bro, the woman I'm with wouldn't even look at you.
Mm.
The women that I know wouldn't pay attention to you. But
Yeah.
I led you here to get a reaction out of you. What the fuck does that say about you? You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
but like, where do you get to in your life? You're a 50-year-old boxing trainer online trying to get attention from another man, saying that the woman that he could never have, is not a woman of substance. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? This is where it's gotten to. Like, how pathetic and sad do you have to be?
That's the kind of guy that would DM you, hey, beautiful. Hey, 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 hey.
Mm.
Fuck you, you're ugly anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this is the state of it at the moment, where it's these men don't have anything to do with their lives, and they resent and hate other men that represent everything that they can't have or can't do or can't
Yeah.
be. That's really where it comes from.
Insecurity and incompetence that rather than work on it, rather than like insecurity and incompetence aren't inherently bad, right? It's just
No,
markers in your life to be like, this is what I need to focus on. This is what I need to work on. You can choose to like lean into that, or you can choose to avoid it and continue to run and blame everyone else. Like it's up to you. You'll end up living that life. The results of that are pretty friggin' clear. And you can continue to be that incel that like all the women hate. I have one guy who DMs me all the time about how he's such a good guy, but he refuses to open doors for women anymore. I'm not going to do that for them, because they don't deserve it. And I will just get called this. And I'm like, mate, just be the change you want to see in the world. Just be a gentleman. Like, it's
it'll get you
not that
further.
hard.
Yeah, it'll get you further.
Like
Like, who
you
cares?
can
Open the
you can
door.
harden your heart and you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life and you're only going to attract that. You're only going to attract more women who treat you like crap because that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Or you can just choose to experience really good women and be like, I'm just going to treat them like they're my grandmother, regardless of if I'm attracted to them or not, if I want anything from them or not, or if they're nice to me or not, because it's my values and it's how I want to be in the world. That's what matters. That's what's
I
attractive.
Yeah, I agree. Recently I do like a visual thing where I imagine that there's a scoreboard on my wall, and it has a number on it, and that
Mm,
number drops by one every day. And that would be how much time I've got with my partner, how much time I've got on this planet, how many more walks I've got left with my dog.
mm,
These are the things that matter. And so each time I think about that, I visualize it. I'm like, oh, cool. This is one day. I know I've probably got the whole day. So I'm going to drop all of that shit. And this is a really powerful practice. It's a Stoic philosophy, memento mori. Reflect on your death. I was just speaking to a friend of mine that's going through something like this.
mm.
Since I started to reflect on death multiple times a day, every time I start to hear a negative thought creep in or whatever, I go, oh man, no. Like this, imagine if this was my last day, or imagine if I had 6 weeks left on this planet and I knew it. I would do nothing but love as many people as possible and give
Mm,
as much as I could and appreciate. I wouldn't want to sleep because I'd want to take it all in.
yeah.
And I think that when you operate from that perspective, especially the scoreboard thing, it's very powerful for me. I think I might have hopefully 3,000 more walks with Duke. And then if I go, that's 2,999 today, then 2,000, and I was watching that tick down,
Mm,
I would make sure that I really appreciate every moment I've got with that dog and with Joelle and my friends and my
mm,
health. I was walking the other day just so filled with gratitude because my legs work. Some
Mm,
people lose the ability to walk. I heard a interview with Robert Greene.
mm,
So Robert Greene, 50 Laws of Power, whatever, that author. I really
mm,
like his stuff. And he said, oh, I just want to go for a walk. I can't walk anymore because he had a stroke.
mm.
And I just thought, man, here I am worrying about what some fucking muppet on the internet said. Well, not worrying about it, but engaging with it maybe
Yeah.
sometimes and letting it take up any space when I've got my beautiful woman, I've got my dog, I've got my life, I'm helping people, I've got amazing connections, friends like yourself that I'm like, this is good. Enjoy this. Don't
Yeah.
treat people badly. That's why when people send me those reels that those guys make, I'm like, I'm not engaging in that. I'm not going to do the tear down thing. I
Mm,
refuse to do it. I had my content guy come up from Sydney and said, okay, I've got some reaction videos. Let's do it. And I'm like, no, mate, I'm not doing those. It's not going
mm,
to happen. It's not going to work. But if we just adopted this approach of really like understanding and thinking, what if I was going to die in 6 weeks? My
mm,
first thought now is I'm going to die soon. So I wake up and start making the morning good. I spend quality time with my family.
mm.
And this just makes life so much better, makes it
Yeah.
easier. It makes it way more precious because you see the humanity and the humanness with other people instead of devaluing them and pushing them down and dehumanizing them and making them into something so you can get your little likes and your dopamine hit.
Mm,
It's the ultimate form of just psychopathy, in my
mm.
opinion, is to dehumanize someone so much because it makes you feel good. Instead, go the other way, meditate on your death, consider it, and think, what if I were to die in 2 weeks and I knew it?
I think that's the hard thing for a lot of people, though, Jag, because you have a beautiful dog and you have a beautiful partner. Like, I know her, she's wonderful.
Mm,
You have a beautiful life. You live in a beautiful place. You have a great community. So, when you're able to reflect upon that, you're like, oh, I'm really grateful.
mm.
When a lot of these people, if they were to reflect upon it, it would be bleak.
Yeah, that is
And
one way to
it's,
look at it. And I know because I've been there.
yeah.
I grew up in an absolutely horrible environment. One of the last things I said to my dad for reference, we had a Christmas thing and it just turned really ugly. And I
Mm,
was straight. They were all drinking and whatever.
mm,
And he goes, I don't know what we did. And he had behaved really badly, by the way. This was 6 weeks before he died. And he behaved really badly. So did my mum and my siblings. They're all no good. And he goes, I don't know what we did for you kids to put us through such hell. And I said, do you want to know? He goes, yeah. I said, we were raised in it by you two. And he was like, and that was one of the last things I said to my dad. So I know I can understand the plight of people going through that are suffering and struggling and
mm,
going through it. It's why I don't get it with that will, dude. Like, you're suffering, man. Why don't you try to be a voice for good instead of tearing others down? Do
mm,
something that's positive in another person's life and help others and appreciate the time that you've got. Because I know what it's like to be there where you're struggling and suffering and
mm.
the world's against you and it's bad and it's dark and all the things. I've been there.
Yeah,
So yes, now I've created a beautiful life.
you
But
have.
I've fucking earned it. That's the thing. I've done the work to
But
earn it.
that's the thing, you actively participated in creating that. Like
Yeah.
life, that this is what I struggle with, like give it to God. And it's
Mm,
like that's such a spiritual bypass, or like the universe will take care of me. Like there's a saying in the Bible that's like God helps those who help themselves. And that is in there for a reason, because you
mm,
have to actually participate. You are here to participate in life. And you have to actually create that. And I'm sure Will thinks that he is helping. He thinks that he is helping women, but actually, like what could you do better? Could you instead of like looking for the bad men out there, could you look for the good men and champion them and show women, hey, like here's some good men, and this is what I think good masculinity is, and here's where people are getting it right. Could you do
yeah.
that instead? Because I'm sure that would be better for your mental health. I'm sure that would make you feel like you're contributing. If that truly is your desire, then lean more into it.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
you have to participate in creating, like I was saying to the guy in my DMs, like you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. You can't just be like, well, everybody else needs to change because I'm uncomfortable. It
Yeah.
doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I fully. I'm gonna laugh. It's just such a good line. It's like everybody has to change because I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, if everyone could be really accommodating, that would be great.
I
Like,
and I was just gonna post a reel before I got on here with
mm,
you about a guy named Danny Abdullah.
Mm.
This guy had four of his children killed by a guy in the Central Coast that was drunk driving. Four of his children, and they were young, I think four, six, and upwards. He had six children, four
Mm.
were killed in one instance. And strangely, like I actually knew a guy that was friends with him in it all. And it's on Channel 7. I can't remember what it's called. It was very moving. This guy forgave the killer of his children, and he goes into jail and he sits with him and he talks with him and he speaks to him every week. That to me, I turned to Joel and I said, that's what a masculine man is.
Yeah.
And that's the man that we should hold to standard.
Yeah.
Like someone that goes, I could stay there and be angry and do all that, but that's not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to
Yeah.
help. That's
Yeah.
what, all this bullshit out there. Real man does this and whatever.
Mm.
No, no, watch Danny Abdullah. That's a real man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't,
what
I
I was
don't
just
know.
thinking. I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah, I don't know, but he's done it. And he's who I look to now. I don't know him,
Yeah.
but he's an example of who I would want to be as a man. He's forgiving, he's solid, he's grounded,
Mm.
he's held his family together through something very difficult. He's a family man.
Mm.
That's who men should role model after, not tear down other men because you need likes and validation or you hate men or masculinity or whatever,
Mm.
And I think that his approach to life around he's grateful for his two children, and even though he'll never be the same, which is his words, I think I just watched it and I don't get really moved by a whole lot, but I was very moved by this.
Mm.
And I thought that he's such a powerful example of what a masculine man is. Forgave the
Yeah.
guy, moved on, speaks to the guy every week. Every single week he rings him to make sure he's okay. I mean, you talk about someone that's worthy of a role model, that's the guy.
Mm. Well, this is the thing. He can decide to let it consume him and let it eat him up and let it define who he is. And I was literally having this conversation with a young boy the other day where I was saying, you made a mistake. Um, you can let that mistake define you, and you can be like, I'm the person who makes those mistakes. Or you
Mm,
can let that mistake be the catalyst that made you into such a good man when you grew up. Oh, I did this really bad thing when I was a kid and it really affected me and I feel really bad about it. But what I did is I was like, I'm never going to do that again. And I worked really hard to become a good man that takes care of people now, that does that
mm,
never makes that mistake again. You don't have to let it be your whole story. It can be a part of your story, and that's what makes you like a whole complete person. Or you can let it consume you. No one can make that choice for you. This is only for you to make.
mm. Exactly, yeah. So the best apology is change behavior. Do
Yeah.
something about it. That's why redemption stories are so popular in movies.
Mm.
A lot of the men I know, we're all redemption stories. It doesn't mean that we're without, what does it say? Jesus said, I think, let those be without sin cast the first stone. I think it is.
I've just got two bunny rabbits that have just popped up right in front of my window. They're so cute. Oh my God. Okay, sorry.
You can
Totally
film it if you
distracted.
want. Get your phone, film it.
So
Insta
cute.
story.
Just wild
Um,
rabbits in my front yard. I was going to ask you, okay, so on this, so this is something that I struggle with because if we go back to what we were talking about with the masculinity on SBS, the masculinity thing, and we were talking about how men only want women with, low body counts, but then we're sitting here talking about people who've walked through it, who've been through it, redemption stories. These are people who are real people who are, so how do we reconcile that when it comes to women? Because the narrative that we as women constantly hear now is that if you have been X, Y, and Z, you're for the streets.
yeah.
And it's kind of like where we talk about, there's no space for young men. They're being pushed into the right. Like women are being pushed into the left because the right is not opening spaces for forgiveness, for change behavior, for all of that kind of stuff. And how do you reconcile that as a man with preference and standards, and also with understanding that nobody escaped the feminism burst from the 60s to now without being affected by it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's multi-layered with that one that I would answer that. But the main thing I think with what people would want to hear is Watch it change behavior. You reconcile it through changed behavior. You know, most of the time you see the guys that want that have a very high body count.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I said my biggest mistake was sleeping with women I didn't care about
Mm,
because I created the woman that I wouldn't date later,
mm,
and that's not fair of me to ask that if I've gone and done that.
mm,
So the best thing I can do is just operate from a different way to be the man that wouldn't do that again. And I would never do that again. There's no way. Like
mm,
I would actually, if I could go back, take on more of a purity culture kind of attitude towards. I wouldn't sleep around. The difference is, and this is what they didn't address in that SBS thing, that women that do sleep around, their ability to pair bond reduces the more men they sleep with.
It's men and women though.
Is
For
it men as
both, it's
well?
men
Okay, because
and
I
women.
tried to look that up, but I couldn't find anything on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with that. I think I'll just answer it from the male towards the women's side, right? Like treating women like that. I think a woman's body is her most valuable asset, not her only one, but her most one because it's for children. So if you don't want to have children, consider that in the future. If you don't want to have children, you want to like sleep around, okay, cool. Be a vessel if you want
Mm,
for other things. But if you do have that inkling for children, then don't sleep around.
mm,
Then you don't need to have the conversation later on. It doesn't matter.
mm,
But then you've got really toxic dudes like the fresh and fat or whatever it is. No, fresh and fit
mm.
guys. Those guys. Those guys are rubbish, man. Like they're so hard of like they don't see the humanity in anyone else. They'll start to change their opinion as well as they become less relevant.
And get old.
And get old, yeah. It's all right now, but life will hit you a little bit later. And I
Mm,
think it's if you haven't done it, you've got a right to ask for it,
mm.
right? If you haven't done it, you kind of you've got a right to ask for it. If you have, it's kind of pot calling the kettle black, right?
Yeah.
One of the questions that they asked on that masculinity thing was, does sleeping around as a man make you a better lover or impact you or something like that? I don't think it does. I
Mm.
actually think that a long-term relationship is probably the best to develop sexually.
Yep.
Long-term relationships are the best for everything.
Yep.
And I think that's the way that people should more focus on, and that's the way they should go. That's why one way didn't work, which is the rampant promiscuity. Now,
Mm.
there's obviously, this is nuanced as well. So if someone says, I don't know, they've been with 15 guys or something like that, or 20, okay. If they've been with 200 or 300, I could kind of say, all right, cool. Maybe you don't want to select that,
Yep.
right? Because there's probably something going on that's
Mm.
needs some work before you could fix that. But like the OnlyFans chicks that are going to Jesus and to Christianity, I wouldn't buy that.
Mm.
Personally, I wouldn't buy that. It's not to say that they don't have possibility of a redemption arc. If you do, cool. But I wouldn't be with a woman that had done all of that stuff. And on the male side, if the man has built himself into something, then cool, that's good. That's his redemption arc. If he's of service, if he's contributing to life, if he's helping people, I think that's a good place to look at. A lot of the guys I know are in that space now that have done
Mm.
really well. And we've all come from sort of rough upbringings and difficult backgrounds.
Yeah.
So you kind of just got to find your person with the same values. I think what's more important than body count is vision, values, purpose, and timing. Those are my core four elements. Shared
Mm.
vision, are you going to the same place? Do you have the same values? That's why it's shared values. Is your vision the same? Sorry, is your purpose the same? Why are we in this? And is timing on point? So
Mm.
the purpose one people get confused about. It's, for myself and Joelle, we both had the opposite sex parent, virtually the same,
Mm.
super abusive, right?
Mm.
I won't share too much about her story because it's hers. Probably she copped it worse than I did in
Mm.
certain ways, and I copped it worse than she did in certain ways.
Mm.
But we've both said that we're here as part of this relationship to heal what is ever left over from those two,
Mm.
so we
Mm.
can have a family, and then our children will never even know what that environment is like.
Mm.
You know, body count doesn't come into that.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that mine's super high and hers is really low. It doesn't matter.
Mm.
It's gone beyond that. So I think that if you can build a foundation for something really solid through that, through different mechanisms, it's just not going to matter.
Yeah, I think it's a confusing narrative because I agree. I think it is values based, and I think that no one escaped for like the feminism. Like very very few people. Maybe if you were in a very strict religious upbringing, perhaps.
Will Noland is the only guy that probably escapes it.
But the religious trauma comes into that. They got the other side of that. They've
Mm.
got the purity culture really wounded them in so many ways as well. But men and women were both really ruined by feminism and being told that this is their way and their value and their worth in life. And we were the first generation to ever live out of home and really have a life away from children and long-term relationships and marriage. It's an experiment. We were an experiment, and it failed.
Mm.
And I think it's hard to then tar people with that brush, especially women, because men have done the same thing, and then they've come to this place and they're like, well, now this is my values, and now this is what I want. It's like you're asking for a lot.
Yeah.
You're asking for a lot, and what you're gonna get is, I don't think my thing I want to say to these men that say this is, I don't think that you actually want that. Because if you got that, all that would do would show you your own shit, and it would be so confronting. You
Yeah.
would not be in alignment. What you want, and what you have said, Jag, you always wanted someone who'd been through similar stuff to you so you could have an understanding, you had compatibility. And I think that's what you need. If
Mm.
you've gone out and you've done all those things and you've changed your mind and you've come to that now, I think you need someone who's done the same,
Mm.
not someone who's kind of been in the opposite. That's not true polarity. True polarity is like similarity, but expressing from different versions of that. Like you were saying, even the opposite sex parent, like that's true polarity. It's like
Yeah.
you're both doing the same thing, but in your own masculine and feminine way.
Yeah.
The opposite of you is actually conflict.
Yeah.
That's not polarity. It's not healthy. And I think when men get, if they ever got like a virginal pure woman, they wouldn't know what to do with her. They
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to speak to each other. They wouldn't be able to relate. They wouldn't be able to like actually have deep conversations. They wouldn't be able to level up in themselves and in their relationship and go deeper, because they can't meet each other there.
Mm.
They can't get there. How can I meet you if I've never had those experiences that you've had? There are certain levels you can, but you can only get to a point, and then you can't go any deeper.
Yeah. No, and it's a great point. And thanks for reminding me of that. I forgot I said that. But that was one of the things that I look for, is someone that had been through similar
Yeah.
things. That's not about promiscuity. It's about life
Yes.
circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So to have the complete, like the same but opposite. When I talk about, when they say opposites attract, it's not like the complete opposite of you. It's the
Mm.
opposing pole to complement you.
Yes.
And where it was really valuable is that, Joelle is my partner. Joelle is, like such a phenomenal woman. She's so gentle, so loving, so giving, so kind, so sweet, so nurturing. She's healed that part for me that no other woman could. And on the other side, because her dad was very dangerous to her, I'm very protective, providing. I take care of her when she's upset. I
Mm.
take care of her when she's sick, all of that stuff, which she'd never had. So we're helping each other to calibrate a new existence, to start a new line in the
Mm.
absence of the previous trauma that came down.
Mm.
Because I said to her when we first got together, I said, with kids, our kids will never meet my mother
Mm.
because she was so abusive. I wouldn't trust her around it, and she's still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And she said similar with her father.
Yeah.
And I said that's why you need someone that's been through the same thing, because that, if I had gotten this puritanical Christian religious virgin or whatever, and not that I was looking for that, but that wouldn't be compatible. It wouldn't
They
be
wouldn't
compatible.
understand. They would
I've,
be like,
I've,
why?
yeah.
I
They'd
love
be
my
like,
mom.
I don't get it, but they should come to Jesus and then
Yeah.
everything's forgiven. I'm like, yeah, that's what my ex said, that she went to Jesus a week after I called her out for being narcissistic. Convenient, right? Now none of it matters. Jesus forgave her. It's all
Much
good.
like someone else we know.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's it's like that's I didn't want to go down that path, but that's what happens. So you need someone that's in a similar place that's been through similar things,
Yeah.
especially if you come from a deeply traumatic background like I have.
Yeah.
You need someone to be able to understand you where they're not going to sit there and try to open those wounds. They're going to help you hold the necessary healing energy over them so you can become a
Yeah.
better person and become more of a full person. And Joelle and I understand each other so well because we know what that abuse is like. So
Mm.
neither of us go anywhere near that with
Yeah.
each other. Not that we do that anyway, but it's we just don't go there. There's nothing there that happens around that because we know
Yeah.
how painful it can be.
Yeah. Otherwise, you have someone who doesn't really understand as much as they try, and that leaves you feeling very alone in your own
Yeah.
relationship, which is just as bad as being actually alone. It's
Yeah, it's
almost
probably
worse.
worse. I
Yeah.
think it's worse because shame comes up and isolation, and this person's supposed to care about me. So at least if you're on your own, you're on your own. Most people are okay being alone. They're just not okay with loneliness.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Well, we did it again, Jad. We
We did it
chatted for
again.
2 hours.
We did it again.
I know. It's been like the sun's going down now. This is how long we've been chatting. Um, this has been great, and I hope this fulfills everyone's wishes. We did it. You asked us, we did it just for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. And okay, tell people if they don't know. Maybe this is their first time hearing you. We don't know.
Mm.
Tell people what you do and where they can find you.
Instagram, Pure Jaguar. I've started a school community where I'm doing all the teaching around subconscious stuff, ego and Q&A style stuff because everyone loved my Q&As on Instagram. So now I do that in school where I do videos once a month on them instead. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm building the school community. I'm pretty passionate about that. It's only 29 bucks a month too, so it's super cheap compared to what I charge for one-on-one work. And I've got a men's group called the Syndicate where I work with men one-on-one to break free from the stuff that's been punishing them. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Nice. Well, thank you once again for giving up your time so generously. And I really appreciate it. And I love you dearly. And I'm very grateful for your friendship and for constantly coming on my podcast and talking shit with me.
Maybe we should start one that's like we just do social commentary without tearing people down.
It'd
That
be
might
great.
go, yeah, that'd be fun. But yeah, I appreciate